The Most Disturbing Cults in History, Part 5. Australia's most notorious cult ran in secrecy by a yoga teacher who believed she was the reincarnation of Jesus, fed LSD to children, and wanted to create the master race. Buckle up because this one is quite the story. Born in 1921, Anne Hamilton Byrne grew up outside of Melbourne, Australia. When she was young, her mother died in a mental hospital and her father wasn't too keen on being a single parent, so she bounced around to different orphanages. Later in life, she had a child and lost her husband in a tragic car accident. That is when she took up yoga and began teaching it in the city. In the 60s is when mysticism and Eastern religion began to make their way west, and a lot of people were very interested in it. During one of her yoga lessons, she met physicist Dr. Raynor Johnson. He referred to Anne as the wisest, serenest, most gentle, gracious soul he had ever met. Together, they began using LSD and started to recruit members into the cult, which was known as the Family. They used Johnson's property right outside of the city of Melbourne as their headquarters, where they held weekly meetings. They spread a mishmash of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity. Another large outlet for new recruits was the New Haven Hospital, which was mostly ran by members of the Family. Many of the patients at the New Haven Hospital they treated with LSD. She easily became a multi-millionaire funded by the cult members. She got everything she wanted from the cult members: homes, cars, money, and eventually even children. When the 1970s rolled around, 28 children became members of the Family. Some were offsprings of members, others were falsely adopted, and some even stolen. With such powerful people working for the Family, such as doctors and attorneys, anything was possible for them to acquire. All of the children were told that Anne was their biological mother. Their identities were completely changed and they were given fake birth certificates. She dyed all of their hair blonde, changed all of their last names to Hamilton Byrne, all to convince them that they were related. She kept the charade going by wearing homemade smocks to fake her pregnancies, and told the members of the Family that they would survive the end of the world and become the new master race. Anne, along with her husband Bill, were the unquestioned leaders of the cult. Beatings were commonplace to children who stepped out of line, and they were given daily doses of Valium to keep them docile. This continued on until they reached the age of 14. That is when a bizarre initiation ritual was done. They would be given an insanely large dose of LSD and locked in a room alone. They would only be seldomly visited by Anne or one of the cult psychiatrists. As you can imagine, this had long-lasting impacts on all the children and cult members. When screaming would be heard by neighbors and police were summoned to the property, the children were instructed to hide and cram into this tiny hole. Her only role was do everything she says. The Family's motto was unseen, unknown, unheard, and they had little contact to the outside world. It wasn't until 1987 when a 14-year-old girl named Sarah Moore was expelled from the group for not behaving and went right to police. Police raided their headquarters on August 14th, and all the children were placed in protective custody. As for Anne and Bill, they fled the country. For 4.5 years, they hid in upstate New York before finally being extradited back to Australia. Despite a massive investigation, raids on the property, they spent little to no time in jail. In the end, they only had to pay 3 $5,000 fines for falsifying 3 of the birth certificates. Like, that is it. After destroying so many lives, that is it. Unfortunately, on this one, no justice was served, and Anne spent her last years suffering from dementia in a Melbourne nursing home. She died at the age of 98 in 2019.
Perplexing Plot Twists, Part 1. In 2008, an Australian couple named Julian and Carolyn were kidnapped by a satanic cult. Members of the cult threw them in a van and drove them deep into the forest, where they were stripped, blindfolded, tied up, and abandoned. Convinced that they would die, Julian suggested that the couple get married under the eyes of God and consummate their relationship. After a week of wandering through the woods, the couple finally made it back to their hometown. Julian was immediately arrested and found guilty of staging the entire thing.
These animals thought they were different species. In 2015, Goliath, a young cow rescued from a dairy farm, surprised everyone. After being nursed back to health with bottle feeding, he formed an unlikely bond with a sibling, a Great Dane. Shockingly, Goliath began mimicking dog-like behavior. He attempted to nurse with the Great Dane, lounging on the family's couch and even tasting dog food. And in 2016, Hannah Simpson from New Zealand, unable to afford a horse, chose to treat a cow from her family's farm as one. Lilac was trained to act like a horse. Impressively, Lilac could even clear a 5-foot jump, but only when in the mood. And in 2019, Pusha, a cat, became an unexpected mother to 4 orphan squirrels. With a bit of human help, the squirrels began to warm to Pusha, and this interspecies family melted hard when Pusha started to care for the squirrels as her own. And in 2016, Nano, a woman, firmly believed she was a cat trapped inside a human's body. Her story was shared on a Norwegian YouTube channel, where she showcased her cat-like behaviors and tendencies.
Let me just ask you, can you tell that there is something wrong with the picture that I'm going to show you? This one is really interesting. So the information I could find on the photo is that we think it was taken by a realtor. He had gone alone to basically inspect a home that was foreclosed on that he was about to put on the market. What's odd about this photo is that if you look at it really closely, you're like, the photo is kind of blurred, like it was taken in motion, because in the background there is something very wrong. Quickly before we get into it, thank you so much for all of the support for my podcast, Creep Time the Podcast. You don't even know how to process being top 10 in the country. That is incredible. If you have not listened, go click the link in my bio. Seen in the background of that photo, it was very clear that he was not alone in that basement. Although he claimed he didn't see anything, he just got a strange feeling, so he kind of took the photo and then rushed out of the room. But this person was confirmed to not be the homeowner. So who was hiding out in that basement?
Are your toys alive?
What did I just walk into? What?
Would you have a robot made? New fear unlocked.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Gotta be careful here. Well, that puts an end to my tarpon fishing. Wow. Get back.
Here's some websites that are insanely useful and you need to know about. TheTrueSize.com. This website essentially shows you the true size of every country. Right here, it looks like Canada is double the size of the US, right? But that's just not true. Next, we have archive.org. It's essentially a giant archive of free books, movies, everything is mostly on here. 1AAuto.com. This one essentially gives you all of the information for your car that you will ever need. All you gotta do is put the year, make, and model of your car. Then it'll give you every spare part compatible with your car. But not only does it give you the correct parts to buy, it also gives you videos on how to replace everything. Next, we have Copycat.com. This website will essentially give you all of the food recipes for every item that you love. So like Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets, they got it! Once you're at this page, you're gonna click on search for recipe. We'll type in Chick-fil-A, and it gives you a step-by-step recipe on how to make the nuggets yourself. GG.deals. This website essentially shows you the best deals that you can get on games right now.
Gruesome Facts You Didn't Know, Part 241. In 1968, radical feminist Valerie Solanas entered the office of famous artist Andy Warhol carrying 2 guns. When she entered, she proceeded to shoot Andy Warhol along with London art gallery owner Mario Amaya and then left the building. 2 of her bullets tore right through Andy's stomach, liver, spleen, esophagus, and both of his lungs. He survived but was forced to wear a surgical corset for the rest of his life just to hold his organs in place. Hours later, Valerie turned herself into police, was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic, and served 3 years in jail. Previous to the shooting, she founded an organization called SCUM, the Society for Cutting Up Men, where she envisioned a world without men. She believed that Warhol was trying to steal one of her play manuscripts when actually he had just misplaced it. For weeks prior to the shooting, she made calls and threats to his office repeatedly asking about the manuscript. The shooting only intensified Andy's fear and loathing of hospitals and doctors. Sadly, on February 21st of 1987, he suffered cardiac arrest following a gallbladder surgery, a procedure he delayed for several years because of his fear of hospitals.
Animals are scary.
Oh man!
Look what this man found in his basement.
Hotel room and immediately see this. You see that line under the door? What is this? What is this? Maybe it's some kind of service. What? Is this a smuggling tunnel? What is this? What the fish snatchers? Let's see what's going on here. This is crazy. This is a hotel. Let's stick it there all the way in. What's that? What the fish snatch?
Do these look familiar to you?
Can you imagine giving your boyfriend one of your organs and then he ends up cheating on you? It's happened a while back, but I thought we'd talk about it because there's a lesson to be learned here. In 2015, Colleen Lay met this man who later became her boyfriend, and after dating for a little bit, he immediately told her about this kidney disease that he was struggling with. Obviously, she really cared about this guy and really wanted to help him, so she went to get tested to see if she was a kidney match with him. She said that seeing him with his condition and how much he was suffering made her want to really help him and see what she could do. Turns out that they were a perfect match, and the operation was scheduled a few months later, and she gave him her kidney. But only 7 months later, her boyfriend went to Vegas with a group of friends for a bachelor party, and he cheated on her. Now, Colleen was obviously heartbroken and she felt betrayed, but she really loved this guy and decided to give him another chance. But then 3 months later, this man broke up with her and completely ghosted her. I always thought the story was fake because how does someone have the audacity? Then he used the God card on her and said that if God wanted them to be together, then they would. And then he got married to another woman. Despite all this, Colleen said that she does not regret her decision and she would do it all over again.
This pastor is being accused of unaliving his own wife. This case is currently ongoing, but it's been so highly suggested, so this is what we know so far. On April 28th, Pastor John Paul Miller made the shocking announcement at the end of his church service that his wife, Micah, had unalived herself. He then asked everyone to leave quietly and not discuss his wife's death. Micah's family and friends do not believe this cause of death and have taken to social media with the hashtag Justice for Micah. John Paul also wrote Micah's obituary, where he talked mostly about himself, not even Micah, who was the one that passed away. He also painted their marriage as like a perfect relationship, which is really odd considering that Micah filed for divorce and a restraining order against her husband only days before her passing. In the weeks prior to Micah's passing, she was sharing on Facebook about abusive relationships and really just hinting that something wasn't right. A friend of Micah's has come out and confirmed that Micah told her that there was abuse in the marriage, and also that church funds were being used for things not church related. And since, more friends and family of Micah have come out with similar accounts. Also been some speculation that John Paul was having an affair, a years-long affair with this woman that he's been seen in the days before and the days after Micah's death. That woman's husband also passed away in a really suspicious way, but that's just online speculation for right now. The investigation is currently ongoing, so hopefully we have answers really soon. But in the meantime, make sure to leave all your thoughts, theories, questions, and case suggestions in the comments for me.
These are facts that will make your skin crawl, part 1. Up first, did you know that women can actually give birth after death? It's extremely rare, but it's called coffin birth. Up next, everybody has definitely heard of the 5-second rule and probably applied it in your life at least once. But did you know in those 5 seconds, minor insects can still crawl on your food after you drop it on the floor, pick it up, and then eat it? Up next, if a black cat looks at you and then suddenly runs away, it means that something unusual is about to happen to you. So if this happened to you recently, then I recommend just staying in your room and not leaving. Finally, did you know that a cockroach can live 9 days without its head before it starves to death? This is absolutely crazy, and as weird as this sounds, I have to see it to believe it.
This book was so disturbing and intense that I'm literally legally not alive on this earth anymore.
They got him. He's dead.
And I mean that quite literally. My obituary is in this book. Aaron Beauregard once again was very kind enough to not only send me a free copy of the Obituaries Red Romance, including another one of his latest novels, Life of Crime, which we're gonna get to very soon, but the dude has legally ended my existence in the coolest and weirdest way possible. And honestly, I'm not surprised. I always thought it was going to be my wife. 6th issue of the Obituary series, Red Romance, with all different short stories written by C.V. Hunt, Aaron Beauregard, Christopher Triana, and also Daniel J. Volpe. And yes, my friends, we are back into the realm of splatterpunk because this is not for your average viewing pleasure. Or for some people, it might be. Ew. Aaron, dude, you are so fucking cool for this. So seriously, dude, thank you. And if y'all are absolutely dying to get the latest copy of the Obituaries, you can pick up your very own at obitshorror.com.
The man behind me is the real-life human Dracula. His name is Tsutomu Miyazaki. He was born with a deformity that fused his wrists with his hands, so he was bullied a ton growing up. Then one day, later on in adulthood in 1988, something snapped in him. He started abducting little children, specifically little girls, and engaging in necrophilia. He would strangle his victims to death and then engage with their corpse. He would even go as far as removing some of their body parts like their hands and feet and even their teeth. One way that made him also very similar to Jeffrey Dahmer, he would pose these bodies in different ways and photograph them. On one of his last instances before he got caught, he drank the blood of a little girl. And then right after that, he ate her hand. One day he was at the playground trying to take pictures of more little kids and the father intervened and stopped him. So Mr. Dracula behind me fled on foot, naked, and was caught by the cops later on. That's when they discovered his disturbing collection of photos and body parts inside of his apartment. However, he blamed it on his alter ego named the Rat Man. They were not playing any games with this guy, they immediately sentenced him to death. The government hung him on June 17th of 2008. Let me know what you guys think about the Rat Man or Dracula in the comment section below. And as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
We can talk about what happened to this girl, but specifically, it has to start with this photo. This was the final picture found on the camera roll of Janine Oswald. Janine is the girl who's here on the right, and her friend Tess is on the left. Tess had dared Janine to go into the silo house. Hard to find a picture of this place, but it's basically off campus of Missouri State, and it's a very common thing that people would dare other people to go into this place, which Janine did. But she never came back out. So as the story goes, police eventually came where they found her body completely mutilated inside the silo house, but specifically they found her phone. Now this was the final picture that was taken on that camera roll, but it's maybe not as sinister or paranormal as you might think. Police actually believe this was a diversion tactic. Think of it like a person or maybe a mannequin that's planted to distract you while somebody else comes out and does something worse. It's never found by the time police searched the building, so it's become a haunting relic of the final moment before something horrific happened to her.
Chris Brown and Live Nation are being sued for $50 million after 4 concertgoers at his 11/11 tour were violently assaulted at one of his shows. Following Brown's concert on July 19th at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas, 4 men, Larry Parker, Joseph Lewis, Charles Bush, and DeMarcus Powell, were invited into the VIP area of the arena. They grew tired of waiting to meet Chris Brown, so they ended up leaving. While leaving near the exit, Bush congratulated Brown on his set, and that's when one of Brown's crew allegedly yelled about them having argued. The men left the area, and they were allegedly followed by 7 to 10 of Brown's crew. When they tried to leave, they were attacked, and this attack was allegedly unprovoked. Brown and 3 others, quote, brutally and severely beat the 4 men. Brown allegedly told one of his accomplices to F Parker up. Parker was then attacked for over 10 minutes. All of the victims needed medical treatment, with Parker being hospitalized for his head injuries. The lawsuit also claims that Live Nation, Brown's concert promoter, continued their relationship with him despite his history of bad and violent conduct. The suit says Live Nation, quote, shamelessly profits and promotes Brown's The 11/11 tour and brought Brown to Texas for financial gain. The plaintiffs are asking the court for compensatory and punitive damages in excess of $50 million, in addition to actual damages that include pain and suffering, disfigurement, mental anguish, and past, present, and future medical expenses. This isn't the first time Chris Brown has faced legal issues like this. In 2009, he pleaded guilty to assaulting his then-girlfriend, Rihanna. He has faced several other physical and SA accusations, most recently in 2023. This lawsuit demands Brown's unprovoked violence to be stopped. One of the co-defendants has denied his involvement, and the Fort Worth police are asking for anyone with any information about the attack that happened at the concert to come forward. This is still kind of lingering in the court system, so we will see where it goes and if Brown ends up settling or going to court. But in the meantime, he has continued on his tour.
What is your emergency?
Yeah, all good, thanks.
Hello?
No, I'm just been out for a few drinks. Everything alright?
You're currently calling 999. Hello? Are you in danger in any way?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I see. I understand. Are you able to speak freely?
No, not right now. Sorry, Mum.
Okay. Where are you right now?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Can you see any street signs? Are you able to give me a location?
I don't know. There was an IKEA around here.
Okay.
Sorry, Mum. What were you saying?
That's a good landmark. Is there anything else that you can provide?
I think you left that at the house.
At the house?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I understanding it right that they're taking you to their house? Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, Mum. I'm gonna have to let you go now, I think.
That's okay. Okay, we're still working on locating you, so don't worry, we'll be on our way.
All right, I will. Thank you.
She stole $1.5 million in chicken wings and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. While some people think that this punishment is completely justified, others think that it's a bit too much. I think people feel bad because they look at this photo and realize that she is older and think that maybe she needs this food to eat. But who's really gonna eat $1.5 million in wings? So this is about 68-year-old Vera Liddell, and she worked for the school district, and her job was to place orders for various schools in Illinois. In July 2020, when COVID was at its peak, students began learning remotely, but the schools decided that they wanted to continue providing meals for the students. Vera thought that it would be a good idea to order case after case of chicken wings using the school district's account, and she did this for 2 years without anyone realizing. She ordered a total of 11,000 cases of chicken wings between 2020 and 2022, and rather this food going to students, surveillance footage showed Vera picking up the wings in the school's cargo van, and then she took them home. And the only time the school noticed that this was going on was when they decided to do an audit and realized that they were $300,000 over their annual budget. It's not confirmed what Vera did with all these wings. I'm pretty sure she didn't eat them all, but it's assumed that she probably resold them and made profit. But the internet is pretty divided on this, and some people don't think it's a big deal that she stole $1.5 million in chicken wings, while others think that she should be punished because not only did she steal so much money, but she took resources away from students. But someone who does support this woman's actions and actually offered to pay the $1.5 million to get her out of prison was this man named Chris Jones, who plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. He recently tweeted that he will pay the entire amount if they let her free, What do you guys think about this?
So about 1 week ago, 3 little girls were murdered in a dance class by a teenager, and 10 others were injured. Of course, that teenager was arrested, but official sources never identified who this guy is exactly. There were several protests and riots in the UK across several cities in the country, and there was a mosque that was destroyed and burned down as a form of revenge because of what happened in Southport. About 1 day later, after this incident, the government, the media, and the police have officially identified who the killer is. He's a teenager named Axel Rudakubana from Rwanda. That is a Christian, not a Muslim, a Christian. Are you gonna burn down a church now that you know he's a Christian? Is that the natural response we as people should have? Official sources confirmed who is the person behind this misinformation. And let me tell you, this is how dangerous misinformation can be. It can lead you to do the wrong things. The person behind this misinformation is Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is an anti-Islam activist. Most of the biggest platform he has is on X, Twitter. That was where he tweeted that this guy, the murderer, was a Muslim. And because of his contribution to the misinformation, these riots happened, and innocent people were injured, and a mosque was burned down. I'm not sure if it was one or more than one. To be honest, I don't even know the guy. I just heard of him today, and from an official news site that said Tommy Robinson was the main contributor to the misinformation that led to these riots. People are so gullible in the UK. Really. I mean this with no offense, but you guys are. And it's really bad.